जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले पादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी श्री मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनकारणं परमानन्दमाधवं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्ण। Thank you all for joining for our Chaitanya Pravaha discussion. So we are continuing our discussions today on Sanatan Shiksha. This is the continuation of the discussion of chapter 20 of the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. One of the most important conversations in terms of teachings, a beautiful dialogue between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami, who is acting as the student, and Lord Chaitanya in this case was acting as the teacher. Uh, this conversation, as I mentioned in the last class, forms the philosophical basis of the Krishna consciousness movement. Uh, it is the fundamental philosophy with respect to who we are, why we are trapped, what is the goal of life, how to attain it. Like Sanatan Goswami, who is so humble and so exalted, actually takes such a very humble and lowly position in front of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and begs to Lord Chaitanya that I do not know. I don't even know what to ask. You tell me what is good for me. I don't know why I am suffering. I don't know who I am. What should I be doing? What is the goal of life? So taking that very exemplary, humble position, despite being so materially qualified, from the background of being a prime minister, from the background of being extremely learned in scriptures, from the background of being learned in multiple languages, from the background of being probably one of the wealthiest persons in India at that time, amongst the top few. setting that example of how the disciple should approach the spiritual master. Like Srila Prabhupada says, the disciple presents himself like a fool in front of the Guru. Doesn't mean that he becomes foolish or he acts foolish, but presents himself like a fool. What does presents himself like a fool mean? I don't know anything. One is not carrying the baggage of one's own conceptions and pre-understanding. One presents himself like a clean slate in front of the spiritual master so that the perfect knowledge can be written and there is no obstruction in the heart of the disciple to receive it. I don't know. So we have been discussing the first part of that conversation. We probably covered around 20 odd verses last time. I mentioned especially that we are going slow because we want to make an attempt to make sure that uh, the philosophical principles are clearly understood. In our last class, we discussed how Lord Chaitanya explains to Sanatan Goswami that the Supreme Lord has three energies: the spiritual energy, the material energy, and the tatastha energy. The jivas, the living entities, are comprised of the tatastha energy, and they have a natural ability to either be situated in the spiritual energy or in the material energy. That is why they are considered on the bank, tata. If a living entity takes shelter of the spiritual energy and engages in devotional service, then he is always perfectly situated in the spiritual world. But if a jiva is ensnared or attracted by the illusory energy of the Lord, and by virtue of that allurement, desire to enjoy independent of the Lord, then that inferior energy, the Maya Shakti of the Lord, Nikatastha Maya Tara Jhapatiyadhari, grabs his consciousness and pulls that living entity who is on the bank, who hasn't quite made that decision, I want to serve Krishna or I want to be in the material energy. He's pulled into the material energy, where he's given a material body, and based on his fruitive desires, he performs fruitive activities and he remains trapped in the cycle of birth. It's a very pitiable condition, once trapped, because once trapped, one is so deluded, almost like a madman, that the living entity practically has no sense of who he actually is, what actually he should be doing. He's practically lost. The situation indeed is so precarious that without extraneous help, it's very difficult for the living entity by himself to figure out the answers to these questions. So, Lord Chaitanya, he explains to Sanatan Goswami that despite the jiva being the superior energy of the Lord, because of it being very infinitesimal, as soon as it desires to enjoy matter, it gets covered over. It becomes forgetful. And how long has the jiva been forgetful? Since time immemorial. Because in one sense, even time is created only when the material manifestation is created. So, anadi bahirmukha, Acharya says. Anadi means there is no, since timeless time, you cannot actually determine a, a moment in time when the jiva was trapped. Unlimited lifetimes we have been roaming from body to body within this matter. sometimes going higher, sometimes going to lower planets, sometimes being in hell, being humans, animals, birds, continuously suffering happiness and distress, pretty much like how a king punishes a criminal by dunking his head into the water, taking it out for some time and putting him again. So, in this way, because of his separation from the Supreme Law, the living entity is perpetually subjected to anxiety and fear. So, this is one of the characteristics of the conditioned soul. Always fearful, always fearful. Then Lord Chaitanya starts to explain to Sanatan Goswami what is the hope and the remedy for such a trapped soul. And Lord Chaitanya hints by saying first that logically, please understand, Sanatan, that the cause of the living entity's precarious situation, this illusory situation, is because of his separation from the Lord. Had he not looked towards Maya and wanted to enjoy and become separated, he wouldn't have been put into this dangerous situation. So his cause of suffering is his separation. And that is why the remedy to his suffering uh, is to be reconnected, reunited with the Lord. Actually, the Jiva, by his constitution, is an eternal servant of Krishna. But what has it become now? Rather than serving Krishna, he is now trying to be a competitor of Krishna. Viparyayo smritihi. Viparyayo asmritihi. And that is why to counteract that conditioned illusory conception, a living entity who is smart, who has become intelligent, who is learned, he starts worshipping the Supreme Lord by taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And through the process of unalloyed devotional service, he makes progress towards the goal of life. Somehow, if this conditioned soul, if he becomes sincere to solve his real problem of life, what is the real problem of life? It is not having a good job, not having enough money, not being able to marry the person one wanted to marry, not being recognized, not having a million viewers on YouTube for one's video. No, what is the real problem of life? A person who understands, Krishna speaks this in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshan. He who can understand that the sum and substance of material life is birth, old age, disease, and death, and that he will remain trapped and continue to suffer as long as he lives in this paradigm. And he should stop getting excited about the meals in prison. Right? The person who's caught up in prison doesn't get too excited. Hey, what's there for lunch today? Hey, Baba, you are in prison, you are tied. You cannot go out. You are totally subjected to uh, control and punishment. So when a person who realizes his precarious situation, he takes shelter of a saintly person. Because saintly persons are the ones who are actually cognizant of reality and they are preaching the message of the Lord on behalf of the Lord to awaken the sleeping entities and especially help those who are willing to be awakened. So in this world, everybody is sleeping, but there are two kinds of people. There are some who are trying to awaken and some who are pretending to sleep. So while we are trying to, meaning the saintly souls are trying to awaken everybody, The masses don't even want to awaken. They don't even realize the problem. So everything is fine. How to wake up such people? Very difficult. But there are some who are fortunate enough to have developed the insight to understand the plight that they are in. Sometimes people think, oh, only people who are very poor and miserable in life from an external perspective realize the misery of material existence. Not true. There are many people who have been very rich and successful who also realize. So this is a spiritual quality which comes because of great good fortune, usually because of some past sukritis. uh, that one becomes interested either in liberation or in the Supreme Lord. At least in liberation, ideally in the Supreme. So such living entities, they are recommended to take shelter of a saintly person so that they can be liberated from the clutches of Maya. Krishna has given the formula, Lord Chaitanya explains to Sanatan Goswami. Krishna has given the formula of liberation from the three modes in a very simple one line, the Bhagavad Gita. Daivi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. This divine energy of mind composed of the three modes is very difficult to overcome. Why it is very difficult to overcome? Prabhupada in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita says, because this is divine energy of mind. My energy. So the jiva cannot overcome. So how to overcome? Then is it a futile endeavor we all are doing? That we want to overcome? Krishna immediately gives the solution. Mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam taram. Those who surrender unto me exclusively can very easily cross the ocean of material existence. Mama eva ye prapadyante mayam etam taram. Then Lord Chaitanya quotes also another very famous verse. He says, even though the living entity may realize he is in a miserable situation, it is not possible for the living entity to figure out what reality is and how to attain the goal of life by himself. A jiva who is entrapped and ensnared in Maya cannot figure out. Maya mugdha jivera nahi swatah Krishna jnana. Jivera kripaya Krishna kailo Veda Purana. That a jiva whose Maya mugdha means bewildered, ensnared by the material energy. Nahi swatah Krishna jnana, doesn't understand what is his relationship with Krishna, who is Krishna. They don't understand. Even though they may see, hear Mahabharat, see the serial, see movies and serials on Krishna. Krishna was something. Oh, he was a good politician. He was this, he was that. You don't really understand what is actually the real position of Krishna. The conditioned soul can never understand Krishna is and cannot revive his own Krishna consciousness by his own effort. And that is why Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Lord Chaitanya is instructing this to Sanatan Goswami, out of his causeless mercy, Krishna, to solve this problem, Jivera Tripaya Kailo Krishna Veda Purana. To make perfect knowledge about himself available to willing living entities who are inquisitive, who understand the truth. Athato Brahma Jigyasa, those who want to know the ultimate truth. That is where human life begins, right? That is how the Vedanta Sutra begins. Athato Brahma. You want to have Brahma Jigyasa, but how will you, when you are trapped by Maya, how will you find out knowledge about Brahma? Krishna, Kailo, Veda, Puran. Krishna has created or compiled the Vedic literatures, the Vedas and the Puranas, etc. Veda Puran, so that the living entity may find out about the ultimate subject matter. So, living entities who are willing to know, the forgetful living entities, they can be educated in the matter of spiritual life, educated about who Krishna is, uh, in the subject matter that is recorded in the Vedas and Puranas. But even to understand what is written in the Vedas and Puranas, one needs help of Guru. So one is to make the subject, the knowledge available, but in order to understand the knowledge also, just having the books is not adequate. So Krishna's only half problem is solved by giving the scriptures. There are so many people who are reading and trying to study and understand and make sense of the scriptures by themselves, but they are still, because they are so much trapped in Maya, they can only see through the lens of their own false ego. That's why they are not even able to see clearly the conclusions which are presented clearly. It's not that the problem is in the book, the problem is in their vision. They are unable to understand and appreciate. The living entity by himself cannot understand scripture properly. In fact, when they make such attempt, either they will misunderstand or they will come up with concocted interpretations or think that, oh, this book is full of contradictions. Oh, here it is like this, here it is like this. They are unable to understand, they are unable to resolve, they do not know how within the supreme truth various opposing contradictory principles can coexist. So it's very important, Lord Chaitanya tells Sanatan Goswami, that to understand the scriptures one requires guru. Two gurus are needed, not one. Two gurus are needed to understand scripture, Lord Chaitanya says. What are those two gurus? One is the spiritual master who comes from outside, and the spiritual master who is inside. Who is inside? Inside every living entity there is Paramatma, Chaitya Guru. So there is the inside Guru, there is the outside Guru. Inside Guru is trying to illuminate from inside, outside Guru is trying to discipline and instruct from outside. Attack from both sides. Attack on illusion, not on the living entity. Attack on illusion. And he's being saved from inside out. So both the Paramatma as well as the manifest Guru, both are representatives of the Lord. So that is Krishna's kindness. Krishna has given books. Krishna will send the Guru. Krishna will inside the heart guide the living entity at every step so that he can gradually make progress. As soon as in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad, here it is not mentioned in this context, but I'm just quoting this. Prabhupada mentions this often. Prabhupada gives that example from Shvetashvatar Upanishad where the example of two birds sitting on the branch of a tree. One is busy eating the fruits, the sweet and bitter fruits of the tree of material existence. Sometimes good results, sometimes bad results. And there's one more bird sitting just next to him who's not interested in the fruits but is just peacefully waiting for that other bird who's busy eating the fruits to stop trying to eat the fruits and turn towards him. The Paramatma inside is just waiting. When will he look towards me? And the Jiva who is Bahirmukha, when he will start to become Antarmukha. so that I can actually guide him. So it is not that the Paramatma is not trying to guide the 8 billion people on this earth, but because we have all turned our face away, we are unable to hear him. We have become so bahirmukha. So the more we become turned towards the Lord, antarmukha, the more we control our mind and senses and make our consciousness purified, the more easily we can hear the voice of the Paramatma. So through these three means, the Jiva has a chance to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is. Understand that Krishna is his eternal master. I am a part and parcel of Krishna. And if I re-establish myself in the unalloyed service of my eternal master, then I can be delivered from the clutches of Maya. So when one understands and acquires this real knowledge of why he is conditioned and what is the way out, his path of liberation becomes clear. So first thing one has to understand who he is and why he is in this mess. Then he has to understand at a high level what is the process of getting out from the mess. That I am part and parcel of Krishna. My mess is because I had become Bahirmukha, trying to enjoy. Now I have to re-establish my relationship with Krishna. So I have to serve him. And for all this subject matter, to understand my relationship, to understand the process, to understand the goal of life, I need reference of the Vedic scriptures and I need to understand them under the guidance of the external spiritual master and continue to be also guided from the inside Paramatma as the indwelling Guru. Then I can attain the goal of. That is why Sanatan Goswami was told by Lord Chaitanya that in a nutshell, the Vedas, even though the Vedas seem to be dealing with so many subjects, as far as spiritual knowledge is concerned, the scriptures essentially deal with three topics only from a category perspective. And that is what the real interest of any living entity should be. So the Vedic literatures, number one, explain or give information about the living entity's eternal relationship with Krishna. And that subject matter is known as Sambandha. Sambandha means relationship. The living entity's understanding of this relationship and acting on that relationship, which means his execution of his function, is known as Abhidheya. Abhidheya means the process. So the Vedas also give the process. They explain the relationship, they give the process, and they give, after you follow the process properly, what is that goal that you will attain. That is known as Prayojana. What is that ultimate goal of life? Sometimes people vaguely say, oh, I will attain God. What does actually attaining God mean? It's very vague, right? Attain God means what? God will come and you will hold him and you'll put him in your pocket. Oh, I have got him. Is that what we mean by attaining God? Or does it mean we'll become God, that we'll attain God? So people become bewildered because they are not guided properly by scriptures and Guru. What is the meaning of God realization? These are all big, big terms. Self-realization, God. Nobody has very crystal clear understanding of what is this prayojan. What is that ultimate goal? What happens to me? What is the state that I will be in? What will be my consciousness? What will be my experience? In that state, how will I relate with what is around me? So, actually, the scriptures are very clear. If one is properly instructed by those who have realized the highest conclusions of the scriptures, then one can actually understand the ultimate goal. Because the ultimate goal of life is even beyond mukti. The goal is not simply to be free from the cycle of birth and death, but the goal is, after becoming free, engage oneself in activities which are based on his constitutional nature. So if you are sick, you're lying on the bed, you're taking medicine, after you become good, you become healthy, you engage yourself in positive activities that give pleasure. It's not that one is simply sitting on the hospital bed telling all the patients next to him and the doctor and the nurse that I have got well, I have got well, I have got well. Arey Baba, you got well, now you get up from the bed, you take discharge and you go out and do activities that will bring you happiness. So being liberated from the clutches of Maya is only half the job done. One needs to become re-established in his relationship with the Lord and serve the Lord with pure love. That is Prayojan, returning back home, back to Godhead. Very clear. This amount of clarity you will not find in most philosophies. Most people are hazy about what actually liberation means. The scriptures are very clear, and by the grace of Lord Chaitanya and the Goswamis, to us it is very, very. So these three subjects are the essence of what the Vedas speak about. So when one is looking at the Vedas, trying to study the Vedas, one must try to understand from the Guru and extract answers mainly to these three questions, because there are so many other things in the Vedas. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Nirdando Nitya Satpasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Don't get attracted by the flowery language of the Vedas, which may be speaking about fruitive results. Those are for the less intelligent people. Those who are intelligent, they are interested in these three subjects. And most importantly, interested in how to execute the principles of devotional service. Abhideya. In simple words, Abhideya, or the actions of devotional service, simply means activities by the living entity using his senses, which are meant for the satisfaction of the Lord. This is one of the definitions of bhakti. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchi, given by Narada Muni. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Please the Lord by using one's senses. Why? Because Rishikesha is the Lord of the Rishika. Rishika means senses. Rishikesh is the Lord of the senses. All the senses are meant for his pleasure. And this is the living entity's highest wealth. This is what he should actually be trying to attain. Attaining the platform of transcendental, loving, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially in his original form as Sri Krishna. When one is able to attain that ultimate goal, one attains such unlimited transcendental bliss, basis that intimate relationship with Krishna, that he actually is able to taste the nectar of the rasas of pure devotional service. And that is what gives complete satisfaction to the heart of the living entity. Nothing else, no other kind of attainment, material or spiritual, can satisfy the living entity as much as developing a personal relationship with the Supreme Lord and rendering him loving service and tasting the nectar of that rasa. The wonderful thing about the Lord is that no matter how long it has taken us to revive our Krishna consciousness, the Lord is still available. Sometimes in this material world, when we are late, the offer is closed or the product is sold out. But because Krishna is unlimited, every living entity has the opportunity to individually develop that personal relationship with the Lord and reciprocate with that Lord, with the Lord. And Krishna can simultaneously reciprocate with unlimited living entities. Krishna is not limited, we are limited. So relationships in the material world can be frustrating because individuals within this world are limited by so many considerations. The Lord is not. Then Lord Chaitanya gives to make Sanatan Goswami understand and so that he can teach it to the world about this real wealth that the jiva should get. And actually, Lord Chaitanya is explaining to Sanatan Goswami that the jiva is always searching for this wealth, but he doesn't know what he's searching for. The jiva, even in the conditioned state, is always searching for that highest treasure without actually knowing what that highest treasure is. Sometimes he tries to find that highest pleasure in material activities by trying to enjoy them. Sometimes he thinks that if I become free from all karma and the cycle of birth, and then that will lead to my most beneficial situation. Sometimes the living entity thinks if I, through the process of yoga, figure out a way to control material energy, then I can attain that state of ultimate uh, perfection. So the living entity is bewildered. So to understand this point of what is real wealth and how sometimes the living entity becomes bewildered in terms of what is it that he must actually be pursuing. A very wonderful example of a poor man is given. So once a poor man, he explains in the form of a parable. Once there was a poor man and a very learned astrologer, Sarvadnya. Sarvadnya means all-knowing. He comes to the house of a poor man. And this astrologer, Sarvadnya, he sees that the poor man is very distressed, very miserable. And the astrologer checks his chart and checks his astrology and says, "Are, why are you so unhappy?" He says, "Oh, I'm so poor, that's why I don't have any wealth, that's why I'm so unhappy." He says, "No, you don't know, I saw it in your chart. Your father was very wealthy and he has left behind a huge treasure for you. But I know before you became separated from your father did not tell you where the treasure is hidden." So the poor man was, "Oh, is it? Am I really rich? I thought all this while I was just born poor and I'm supposed to be poor, but you are telling me that actually I'm not a poor man. Actually, I'm the son of a very, very rich man." So Lord Chaitanya tells Sanatan Goswami, just like the astrologer Sarvajna is telling this poor man what is the real treasure, the Vedic literatures are revealing to the conditioned soul who's struggling to be happy, but is fortunate to become inquisitive. They're telling him, "Arey Baba, what are you doing here? Why are you suffering? There is some treasure inside you. You are looking for it in the wrong places and you're lamenting unnecessarily. It is true wealth is your birthright. true, true wealth is your birthright. You only need to find that wealth. It is already yours. So similarly, a conditioned living soul, he can be guided to the real treasure, the real goal of life, which is to reconnect ourselves with our eternal Father, Supreme Personality of. But even though this information is given to this particular poor man, this information is not adequate. Okay, I am the son of a rich man, but where is that wealth which my father has left behind for me? Correct? Just knowing that there is a treasure, but not knowing where to find it is not very useful. Correct? If somebody tells you that I have kept 1 billion US dollars for you hidden somewhere, go and search for it. Arey Baba, कुछ तो बताओ where it is. Tell me something. Give me some clues. You can't tell me do a treasure hunt all over the planet. How am I going to be able to find it? So more information is needed. That's why the astrologer in the parable had to give more guidance. He started studying the chart. Okay, let me figure out where the treasure may be hidden. And then the astrologer starts instructing this poor man. He says, let me see in which direction from your house the wealth is. Let me check whether it is in the west. Ah, no, no, no. Don't go in the western direction of your house. The astrologer Sarvanya tells the poor man. If you go on the western side to dig, there is a ghost there. That ghost will create such a nuisance for you that you can never reach the treasure. So don't go and dig on the western side. Let me check about the northern side. Starts checking on the chart. Don't even go on the northern side of your house. Look for the treasure. If you go and dig on the northern side, in the soil there is a huge poisonous black snake. And he will devour you if you try to dig there for the treasure. And southern side also, there are lots of wasps and drones. They will all attack you and sting you. So I have advised you, don't go to the south, don't go to the west, don't go to the north of your house to search. But you should go to the east of your house. There, one should dig a little bit, small quantity of dirt also. Very quickly you will find the treasure that your father has. The Lord Chaitanya explains the parable like this. And then he debriefs the parable. Says, just like this astrologer Sarvadnya told this poor man that don't go to the south because there'll be wasps and drones. Don't go to the west because there is a ghost. Don't go to the north because there is a big black snake. But go to the east. Similarly, the revealed scriptures for one who's thoroughly understands them under proper guidance concludes that the real goal of life, the real wealth, my pure Krishna consciousness, if I want it, then I have to give up the other three directions. What are the other three directions? Fruitive activity, speculative knowledge, and mystic yoga. And instead, I have to take to devotional service to the Lord, by which Krishna is fully satisfied. Now, one may ask that how is this parable linked to fruitive activity, speculative knowledge, and yogic process? So, the way It is explained in this parable is that if you go to the south, going to the south, uh, where one is attacked by wasps and drones, is the path of fruitive activity. If one takes the path of fruitive activity, then one is trying to be happy, but actually ends up becoming miserable. Correct? Just imagine you go, uh, and you are continuously being harassed by wasps and drones who are continuously stinging you. Nothing you can do. You'll be miserable. No matter how nicely dressed you are, how good your house is, how beautiful your car is, if you're continuously being stung by bees and drones. Miserable. So material life is like that. Don't take the path of fruitive activity. Fruitive activity, even though you may attain various material things, they are temporary and you will not be free from the threefold miseries. Threefold miseries, Adibhautik, Adidaivik, Adhyatmik, will continuously haunt you. No peace. No Krishna, no peace. N-O, Krishna, N-O, no peace. And no Krishna, K-N-O-W, K-N-O-W, no peace. So, not fruitive activity. We actually very miserable. So don't go to the northern direction. Because if you get too much into speculative knowledge, you'll be so bewildered, like as if you're bewildered by a ghost. You'll not be able to figure out what is the conclusive truth. Don't get too much into speculative. And don't go on the northern side where there's a big black snake. Because you will be swallowed by the snake of impersonalism. So those who think that the ultimate goal of life is to extinguish their individuality and merge into the existence or the being of the Supreme, they are only aiming to commit spiritual suicide, like being swallowed by a big black snake. Don't do that. That's why scriptures say, give up fruitive knowledge, sorry, fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, and also the mystic yoga process. And go to the east where the process of pure devotional service is. Then Lord Chaitanya quotes a beautiful verse from Lord Krishna's instructions to Uddhava. It's a very beautiful, very famous verse. I will read the verse also. Very important. Na sadhayati mam yogo. Because whatever Lord Chaitanya is teaching, he's quoting scriptures also. Even though he's the Lord, he's quoting scriptures. He's not simply saying, this is my opinion. Of course, Krishna's opinion is supreme, but even then because even as Paramatma and others, he's giving reference to scripture. Even when he comes outside in the form of Guru, he gives reference to scripture. Because Krishna says, I created scripture as the reference for understanding. So I will use it as a reference, even when I teach. Na sadhayati mam yogo, na sankhyam dharma dhava, na swadhyayas tapatyago, yatha bhaktir mamorjita. Neither through Ashtanga Yoga nor through impersonal monism, nor through analytical study of the absolute truth, not through study of the Vedas, or through austerity, or through charity, or even simply by taking sannyas, one can satisfy me. I cannot be satisfied simply by adopting of these by themselves. As much as I am satisfied when someone develops unalloyed devotional service. Even as one of these and also has unalloyed devotional service, that is wonderful. But if you have this but don't have devotional service, it is not able to satisfy. Somebody thinks, I'll take sannyas, then I'll please the Lord. No. Just by taking sannyas, one is not pleasing the Lord. Or not pleasing the Lord as much as huh, the Lord is pleased by unalloyed devotional service. So an unalloyed devotee who may not have any of these other things, is not very learned, not very austere, huh, not very analytical, doesn't perform lot of yogic Ashtanga yoga processes, but simply very simple, humble person who is engaged in pure devotion, that person satisfies me much more. So this is from the 11th canto, 14th chapter, verses 20 and 21 of the Srimad Bhagavad. So I am attained how? Oh, Uddhav, I am attained through unflinching faith and devotional service. If anyone wants to attain me, he who is very dear to the devotees and the purified souls, one should take to the process of Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga not only purifies the living entity, even he is from the lowest of low, a living entity who is not qualified for any other process, including the processes we discussed earlier. Even the lowest of the low, even the dog eater who is not qualified for any processes of karma, jnana or yoga. Because all of these processes also require adhikar, they also require qualification. You want to do yajna from the karma kanda, you need qualification. You want to do jnana related sadhana, you also need qualification. You want to do yoga, you need qualification. You want to do bhakti, if you are qualified, good. If you are not qualified, also no problem. Because it's a spiritual practice. It is not a practice based on material considerations. So even a dog eater will become purified. It takes to the process of devotional service. Not only bhakti purifies, but simultaneously bhakti does two things. Purifies from material things, simultaneously eases attachment for me. And that is why, O Uddhav, Krishna is telling you, the Lord Chaitanya is quoting this. That is why, Uddhav, everyone can make spiritual progress through bhakti yoga. Nobody is barred. Nobody said you're disqualified. One can disqualify himself from bhakti. One can disqualify himself from bhakti. Disqualify because of his condition. If one is very offensive to the Lord or his devotees. So, Lord Chaitanya says, Sanatan, please understand, I want to emphasize this point to you in my teachings to you. The conclusion of all that I have spoken is, including this parable of Sarvajna astrologer, is he who wants that real wealth, the real goal of life, must take to the process of your devotional service. This real wealth cannot be found through karma, jnana, yoga. It is found only through bhakti, and that real wealth is your devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So the goal or prayojan is pure love, and the process is unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. And that is the sum and substance of the knowledge of all the Vedas. In other words, even the Lord Chaitanya doesn't mention that very explicitly. In other words, for our understanding, if one has understood these three things, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan, in the brief language that we spoke just now, what is my relationship with Krishna? Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. What is the ultimate goal? To reconnect with the Lord in my eternal relationship and to serve Him in pure love. Which means essentially to go back home, back to Godhead. attain Krishna Prem and the process of unalloyed devotional service. If one is fortunate to understand and receive this knowledge, essentially he has understood all that is to be understood from the Vedas. Correct? Because ultimately this is what is the essence of the Vedas. Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan. All other things are fluff. They are good, but they are for people who are at lower levels of aspirations. Of course, for bhakti, like what we said, there is no lower level. Anybody can take to bhakti. But if somebody wants only something lower, someone wants to go in the southern direction only, someone wants to go in the western direction, northern direction, and not go in the eastern direction, what to do? Krishna has different goals available for people that have different aspirations. They exist. They give benefit in certain ways, but they are not the final solution. That's what Krishna is saying. Somebody really wants simply liberation and merging into Brahma Jyoti, yeah, that's an option. That's not going to give complete satisfaction to the soul. Na karma, na jnana, na yoga can give complete satisfaction. This is the understanding. So those who have understood this have essentially understood everything. Krishna mentions the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not quoted here again. I'm just giving this additional point so you can relate to Krishna's instruction in Gita. Krishna says, Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo. Vedanta krit veda videvachaha. Please understand, Arjuna, ultimately, to all the Vedas, the bottom line is that I am to be known. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo. And I only made the Vedas so that you can know me. Vedanta krit, I have only written the end of Vedic knowledge, which is to reconnect with me. Veda Videvachaman. I only know perfectly what is the final conclusion of the Vedas. So you have to learn it from my representative, who will explain the Vedas to you. From inside and from outside. From inside as the Paramatma and from outside as the. So when in this way, Lord Chaitanya said, one becomes really rich. One finds the treasure that the father has left for him in the eastern direction. When one becomes rich, what happens? The old man, all his problems disappear. I'm comparing with the parable. Not I, Lord Chaitanya is comparing, I'm just explaining. One is always in a happy mood and all one's distress go away by themselves. No separate thing needs to be done. Bus. Just acquire this real wealth. Correct? Oftentimes in the material world, even though it's not spiritually true, in the material world, oftentimes what people say, there is no problem that cannot be solved with money. So somebody says, I have this problem, I have that problem. An intelligent, materially intelligent person will say, actually your real problem is you don't have enough money, because if you had enough money, you could have solved all these problems. So with one solution, all other problems are solved. I mean, generally, of course, it's not an absolute statement, but I think you get the idea. So similarly, Lord Chaitanya is saying, when one gets this real wealth, then all kinds of problems of the living entity get solved. There is nothing which remains unsatisfied. He is fully satisfied in all ways. This is not a temporary relief for the soul. It is the complete fulfillment of the innermost desires of the soul. Having satisfied which, one feels completely satiated and blissful and doesn't desire for anything else. He's so happy that no other problem seems to matter. I'm talking about external situations in this. No Lord Chaitanya says, no extraneous endeavor is needed. Similarly, huh, just like no extraneous endeavor is needed for a rich man, similarly, when one has bhakti, when one awakens one's love for God, one is so situated that he's tasting such nectar in the association of Krishna that one doesn't need to do any separate endeavor to be free from the cycle of birth and death. You don't have to work hard for mukti. Somebody will say, Hare Baba, if I go behind Krishna for prema, you will take care of my material, my material needs and my maintenance. And how will I be ensured that I become free from the cycle of birth and death? Because these are big problems in life. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paripasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamya. Material maintenance, you don't have to worry. If you are engaged in pure love, Krishna will send everything to you. Srivas Pandit was like that, Lord Chaitanya's associate of the Panchatattva. He would only be busy in studying Bhagavatam, doing Kirtan, serving Lord Chaitanya and the devotees. He would never do any profession, never do any work. Of course, if you are not on the level of Srivas Thakur, don't try to imitate him. And Lord Chaitanya asked him, Srivas, how is your house being taken care of? I never see you doing anything. Whenever I see you, you are chanting the holy names, doing kirtan, serving, worshipping the deities. And Srivas Thakur, when he's asked by Lord Chaitanya, he does like this. When Lord Chaitanya asks him the question again he does. And Lord Chaitanya pretends as if he didn't understand. He says, no, what are you doing like this again and again? You're not answering my question. Srivas Thakur explains to Lord Chaitanya, he says that, oh Lord, that there is no need of mine for my maintenance in this world that will not get fulfilled within the time that I clap my hand 3 times. The Lord, for a person who is fully engaged in his service, provides everything that the devotee needs. Not everything that the mind will hanker for, but everything that the devotee needs. And if that were not true, I will drown myself in the Ganges. That's much faith Srivas Thakur had. So you're so fixed in that realization of this statement. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paripasati shyamityabhutana. And no need to bother about liberation also. Because pure love automatically means all one's karma and one's false ego automatically gets dissolved. Why is there a need to do any jnana or yoga to achieve liberation? That is also not needed. So, in one stroke, all one's problem is solved. By getting love of God, one doesn't have to, if one has love of God, one doesn't have to try to become materially rich or to become free from material existence. If one is situated in pure love and enjoys transcendental bliss, all other things are automatically attained. And this is the central point. Krishna is the central point. Attraction to Krishna and his service are the central point of the Vedic literatures. And the ultimate goal of life is to attain prema. Lord Chaitanya concludes this section by saying, therefore, Krishna, service to Krishna, and love of Krishna are the 3 great riches of life. which essentially are related to Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. Right? Sambandha means Krishna. Understanding who is Krishna. What is my relationship with Krishna's service, Bhakti, Abhideya, and love of God, which is Prayojan. This is the understanding and the attainment of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan are the greatest riches. So I'm going to stop here. We have discussed a bit more. We have already overshot. So we'll continue from verse 145 onwards. This topic is still further discussed. This is not a very clean break yet, but nonetheless we are overshot, so we will stop here. We'll continue the discussion. Thank you very much. I hope you are able to relate to what we are discussing. Any questions? Any comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, Sudhir Prabhu.
Prabhu, between the what is that? Paramatma as our guru, and also the what ex, 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 external guru. Is there anything which what says that which which one is more important, or 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 both of them are equally important? Thank you, Prabhu.
Overall, both of them are important, and without both of their help, one cannot attain. But one should understand that through the grace of the Paramatma, first one attains the shelter of a guru. The Paramatma guides one to the guru. The problem is, of course, Paramatma is capable of giving all guidance to the aspirant, but the aspirant is not able to listen and relate to the Paramatma unless he is sufficiently purified. That is why initially the Paramatma will lead or connect and guide the individual to come and reach the Guru. Then a lot of work happens with external instructions. And the role of the Paramatma in that situation is from internally help the devotee to understand. Tesham eva anukampartam aham jnanajam tamaha nashyami atma bhavastu jnanadipena bhasvata. The more the sadhaka favorably responds to the Guru, adopts the sadhana, and practices with faith, from inside Paramatma clears the ignorance. Paramatma helps understand Shastra, because even though the Guru will speak, even though the Shastras may be read, but the right understanding does not come unless the Lord allows that understanding to be illuminated within the heart. So Paramatma's role is there also. On becoming perfect, Prabhupada explains, one can hear the Paramatma clearly. One is always guided by the Paramatma. One is always connected to the Paramatma. It's a broadband connection to the Paramatma. So there is no network interference. Right now our connection is, 1 second we get signal. The next second we get another channel signal and we think it is Paramatma signal. We are hearing bhajan. Sometimes on radio, previously it used to happen. So suddenly cross between stations. You are listening to bhajan 1 minute and after a few seconds, suddenly you are listening to a rock song, hard metal. Something will happen. So one goes off tune. But when one is fully purified by following strictly the instructions of the manifest spiritual master, one actually is able to realize and connect to the Paramatma. Then one is no longer so much dependent on external guidance. One is able to continuously receive guidance from inside and listen to it. Like Prabhupada says, Prabhupada would say that whatever I am writing, Krishna is dictating to me my purports. So Lord is revealing continuously. The Lord gives intelligence. The Lord will tell even when somebody comes If the Lord wants to shower mercy, the Lord will inspire the spiritual, the advanced practitioner. Okay, I want you to go and help him, bless him, accept him as your disciple. Continuously, those who are advanced souls, they can. We are not at that stage. We need external discipline. So both, of course, at that point, the disciple always remains eternally indebted and remains in the mood of the servant of his external spiritual master also. But he doesn't need that much external disciplining once he is in continuous touch with the Paramatma. So I think that kind of gives you a high level idea. So our accessibility of Paramatma increases as we progress. Okay, Prabhu, does that help?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank
Okay, so thank you very much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai Samrita.
you.
I'll
Thank
see
you,
you on
Prabhu.
Saturday. Thank you, thank you. Hari Bol. Tomorrow is Ekadashi, so please fast, and day
Thank you,
after
Prabhu.
is
Hare Krishna.
Indulika.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Yes, yeah, and fast, and then Thursday is breakfast. I put the timings in our group. For those who are in India, please look up your calendars.
Yes.
Rebo.